Hello, my name is Bertrand Beauregard. I've been practicing coaching for more than 15 years. I'm really passionate about mankind and the coaching. I do belong to the two biggest federations in coaching in the world, which are ICF and EMCC. With such commitment, I'm now certified master coach in coaching, MCC and ACTC by ICF, and senior practitioner EIA, and supervisor ESIA by EMCC. Through my practice of coaching, mentoring, and supervision, I empower leaders and their team and coach. With this inclusive mindset, I've been writing over the last 2 years a book that is really special to my heart that is called Mentor Coaching. In this book, I explore what is at stake with coaching, the definition of coaching, our roots, our history, where do we come from, where do we belong, and where we are going. I explore the origin and the history of the federation, what is at stake with the credentials, certification, the accreditation, how to choose a coach, a mentor, a supervisor, how to work on yourself, how to be a good coach. And I will share from my experience many tips, many insight, advice, techniques to empower your level of coaching. So you will progress in your mastery of the core skill and get your credential, ACC, PCC or MCC more smoothly. During this process of writing, I was really inspired by the interview I've been leading with the pioneers. So with this podcast, my intent is to share this wisdom. So I hope that you will be inspired and that you will like it. If you had any comment or feedback, I will be really happy to read it regarding the podcast itself and the book. Now relax, enjoy, and explore the practice. So hello Pam, I'm really happy to meet you again. As I said earlier, I'm really happy because you are one of my highlights for the week. I was really
Mm.
happy to reconnect. I want to express my gratitude for the first time we met, the interview, and I thought the podcast would be a great moment to share your wisdom because I think it's wisdom and your insight about the history of coaching, the profession, and about yourself.
Thank you, dear. I'm delighted to be here as well and support you in your work.
Mm. How do you feel today? What is your mood?
Uh, Joyful,
Mm.
uh, curious,
Mm.
and just really happy to be here with you. So that's my mood for the day.
Mm. So you are starting the day and I'm finishing my day. Here it's raining, but in my heart it's blooming. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
when I thought about you today, I was to define you with few words, and what came to my mind was passion, commitment, and generosity. You
Mm,
shared a lot with me about document, papers, emails, and our conversation. But how would you describe yourself?
mm.
The words.
I guess I would add to that curiosity
Mm.
and compassion. Those are two things that are so present to me every single moment of my being. In and doing. So I would say I'm a super, super, super curious. I actually get in trouble sometimes because I'm so curious. And and compassion and care.
Mm.
Those are, I would add those.
After our first meeting, the word that came to my mind was spirituality, something that it was really grounded and committed to something bigger, maybe.
Well, I'm deeply committed to human beings becoming more conscious
Mm.
and more compassionate, and our work in the world is a wonderful conduit for that work to happen.
So we came in contact because of ICF. When I was
Mhm.
writing my book about mental coaching and coaching on the foundation, I had the opportunity to discuss with staff, and your name came many times, and the name
Mm.
of Vicky also, but
Mm.
maybe later. Can you tell me more about your path, your career, and your connection with ICF, with World of Coaching?
Mhm. Oh gosh. Well, I came to coaching through, I was an educator at one of our, well, several of our colleges and universities in where I was living. And I had a student one day bring me an article saying, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s,
Mm.
um, on articles that said, this sounds like what you're doing with us. And it was about coaching, or a thing called coaching at that time. It's not, and I went, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so then I did my research and ended up studying and becoming involved in a field, and our emerging field at that time, because of what I said earlier, honoring people, as resourceful and creative and capable, and uh, helping them remember themselves, right? And so, I mean, that's what I did I have an eclectic background, theater, political science. I mean, it's pretty eclectic. And so in all of those fields, that's the focus. And so I came to coaching and got connected with some of the early peeps like me, and and began to build uh, a structure that could help coaching be available in
And
the world.
what was coaching at this time? Because it was before ICF, as far as I understood, and the word coaching was emerging. At the beginning, it was
Mhm.
connected with self-development and career empowerment, these kind of things. But
Mhm.
where are you? What was the definition, the common ground at this time?
Well, for me in those days, coaching was a practical, and you knowing this about me, sacred conversation about helping people remember who they were, right? And so at that time, it wasn't, there was no like business, there was no structured profession of coaching. There were people doing coaching kind of things, calling, whether it was the early people like Thomas Leonard or Laura Whitworth, or the other Whitworth, John, and Eckert, and stuff. I mean, there's always people that were doing things related to ultimately what has been emerging over the last few years. Even, however, coaching in and of itself, the being of the conversation is as ancient as the tribes, the tribal elders, right? So, but there was no structure. And so in the early days, one of our challenges was how do we, wow, this feels like it could be a profession, not just a conversation. And so uh, and I say we, if you want this part of it, the larger context was,
You can open.
yeah, which was, I, at the time where I was getting my training was at Coach U, right?
Mhm.
And so that's, because I'm an educator already, they pulled me in and I became an educator for them and started running the company and learned of uh, um, the brilliance of what we could be creating at the time, and just in that little space of that one school. And then started to have graduates, and then other entities became in my bandwidth, like CTI or Coach for Life in San Diego, or Hudson Institute.
And
And
I can see the pioneers popping up. I can see.
yep, they all, here we go, it popping up. And basically what happened is we started to have graduates from all of our schools, and they wanted to, how do we stay connected? And so there were a couple of associations started by, one by CTI, one by Coach U, one by there was a mentoring coach mentoring group as well. And so ultimately, long and short of it, but out of that partnering emerged, and International Coach Federation at the time, not coaching, but coach emerged. And once that happened, um, we started to talk together, all these different uh,
Schools.
people from different places, as part of the ICF, as part of the International Coach Federation. And so we started to look around the corner to say, what do we have to pay attention to if we want to be seen as distinct,
Hmm.
as from therapy, from consulting, from training, from all of those things. Well, what do we have to do to look around the corner? And so that's when uh, there was a committee formed. Um, Laura Whitworth and I were the co-chairs of it. It's called the Portfolio Exam Committee. And so our charge was to come up with
Framework.
Solid definition of coaching. Find out how to test for coaching skills, right? Which means we needed to have competencies that are distinct, and we didn't have them.
Famous core
So,
skills. The
yeah.
famous
So,
core,
Laura, yep, say that again.
famous core skills.
Yes, yes, famous core skills. And so, really, what happened is Laura and I kind of looked at each other on the phone. This is way before Zoom. And sorry, I froze there for a minute, but this way before Zoom. And we just kind of went, who the heck are we to make these choices, right? And so what we did is we called all of the people that we knew or that we had heard of that were teaching coaching skills in whatever philosophical construct they had. We had already had COACHU and CTI because it was the two of us. We got Hudson Institute at the time, Frederick Hudson, who's since passed away, bless him, his sweetie, and Coach for Life in San Diego, ACT, Sun Institute. There were 8 schools that we called and said, listen, do you want to play? Do you want to, let's talk about this. So for one solid year, we were on the phone, fax machines, all sorts of things. Uh, and we ultimately came up and met in person live in Marin County, California, Northern California. And we, after, and I notice I'm freezing a little, okay, but after we take away, as you can still hear me, yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, after we take away all of our philosophical entrance places, right? What was left were the core competencies at the time. And we all, I'll never forget it, raised my hand with Frederick at one end and me at the other, and all the rest of us there saying we agree with this as the definition of coaching and as these core competencies. And it was a tipping point for the beginning of the growth of coaching as a structured profession, not as coaching as a whole, because, John Whitworth and, Eckert, the work had been going on for a long time, but just not structured in the form of, where we could validate it publicly across the planet,
So
and so that's what happened. And so, and then the rest is history. It
it
just keeps going. Yeah.
means that if I can make a resume, uh,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
started coaching at Coach U with Thomas
Mhm.
Leonard. That was
Mhm.
later on the founder of ICF with Laura.
Mhm.
CTI was founded by Laura. Then you
Mhm.
you gather the course, let's say the main schools and mostly involved in this kind of philosophy and work,
Mhm.
bring up the core skill together.
Yes.
And
And
I'm impressed that you could gather the schools that are so different and find a common ground.
well, it's the heart of coaching that was allowed that as possible. I love those people. Laura was a dear friend of mine, and we were in competing schools, right? Of course, we had
Because you
a
were,
belief about co-opetition. Listen, if they're not good for me, they're good for you, right? So, yeah.
because you were working at Coach U and you
Hmm.
were partnering also with CTI and ICF with this structure.
Hmm. Yeah. So I was working with Thomas at the time was still alive, and he was, owning that organization, and then Laura was still running with the organization with her partners as well for CTI. Hmm.
And how were they? I know because I already asked, but what was their personality, their behavior, and motivation?
Oh, they're so different. It's so interesting because their personalities. Thomas, he brought an entrepreneurial energy that helped with structure in particular. He was a financial advisor to begin with, right? And so structure, right? Structure, distinctions, making sense to help become a profession. And Laura, so I would say for him is Thomas helped organize itself,
Mm.
right? In ways. Laura, and of course she's my dear friend, and she's passed away, bless her, but she brought depth. She brought humanity and a fierce commitment. If you knew her at all, just a fierce commitment that what ITS call I mean CTI calls the coactive spirit, right? That's what they call it. So her if my sentence for her is Laura helped coaching remember its heart.
Wow. That is,
So there's so two structure, distinctions, all of that, and then wow, what are we really about? So that coaching doesn't lose its soul.
mm.
Right?
So it's about the soul and the structure.
Mhm.
What I read, because I didn't meet her, it was that Laura was more about the heart, the depth, like you said, and also the bigger game.
Mm.
She was really committed and like an adventurer.
Yes, yeah.
And I,
And Thomas was a bigger game person, just in a different way, though, right? He was always uh, from a structured standpoint. I remember one time I almost got fired just because I argued, because we were teaching on the phone at the time at Coach U, right?
I
And
remember.
I only would have 25 people because I knew how to I mean, I'm an educator, so I knew that I could do this coach. And he said, okay, we're going to expand all the classes to 100 people on the phone. No, not we're training. We're not, doing lectures, right? And so he had a bigger game, just in a different way. Let's get coaching out there in a bigger way, right? And touch more people in a bigger way, which is the same as hers. But again, the approach and the kind of way of thinking about it was completely different.
And I was impressed that you were coaching at this time on the phone and training on the phone. It's quite pioneering to,
Yeah, it surprised me because I was an educator already. I teach it face to face at colleges for years, right? And I thought, how can I learn on the phone? But I'll tell you what, my listening skills were so amazingly improved on energetic levels. I could hear a smile. It's just pretty amazing what can happen when your other senses are taken away, right? So yes, it was a big learning. The first 20 years almost of my practice was all on the phone.
and if I'm right, you could listen and evaluate even a session in a foreign language.
Uh-huh. Because well, at the ITS at the ICF, sorry, I have too many organizations in my head. At ICF in the early days, we didn't have enough people that could do assessment or tests in multiple languages as we were emerging. And at Coach U, I had it, and I mean, some of our early clients, because it was virtual on the phone, we had them all over the world, to China, Europe. We had a lot of people from everywhere. And so I'm familiar with languages a lot anyway. I speak un petit peu French, a little bit of French, a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of Chinese, I speak Farsi probably fluently, or I did. And and so what we did at the ICF was, well, gosh, we've got to, once we created the Laura and I and our team, the structured tests was a virtual exam, modeled after what I was doing at Coach U at the time. And we had to be able to assess things live in other languages.
Hmm.
And so how do we do that when we don't have people that are trained as a coach yet to assess? And so the long and short of it, there were a few of us that I could listen and understand enough, but also feel the nuance because of my work virtually, the way it was, right? To know whether coaching was happening. Didn't matter what the words were. It was a matter of how it went. And so, yes, we did that for a lot of years. We did that. I think I remember the first time I listened to one in Chinese, I was like, or in Mandarin. I was like, okay, Pam, just be really present. It's pretty amazing. So
Right.
we don't do that anymore because we have plenty of people trained. So that's great.
And I can sense your quality of presence and awareness
Hmm.
through the size. Hmm. Because you
Yeah.
didn't have the video, only the phone.
Hmm.
Wow.
Mhm.
And tell me more about the credential. How did it happen? The famous ACC, PCC, MCC?
Well, some of it happened in spite of me. Um, um, Basically, what we started with was just one what would be determined today as just kind of like a grandfathered, first group of people, probably 100 people or so from all over the world. They weren't just U.S. based where I was at the time. we had okay, this is how we do the exam. Here's the people that passed the exam. And Vicky was one of them too that came in and got her exam that passed through that in the early days. And when that happened, we said, okay, so how do we have a space where all of the schools, no matter what their philosophical base is, right, can come and be tested on these competencies that we've all agreed upon. And so out of that, we had the basically what we would call now the PCC level, which is, a certain amount. At the time, it was 750 practice hours before you could actually take the exam. It moved to 500 as time went on, and the MCC level was created in service of people to continuing to grow,
Mm.
right? To continue to move on. And that was 2,500 hours. And then in the midst of that, there was a lot of, I remember when this happened. I was in Datchet in the UK doing a training. When I get back in my computer and I found out that they created the ACC. And I was like, and so, and I say they because I wasn't involved in it at all at the time, because I was training mostly.
Mm.
And that was created to support organizations who are bringing coaching skills into their organization. There was a really good reason for it. And at the beginning, we required, I think, 200 or 250 hours of experience before they could actually get the designation of an associate. And then that was it was lowered to 100 later on after that to try and support those that are internal to organizations to actually step into really understanding the standards,
Mm.
understanding the core competencies. And so for me, it would ideally, for me, not be a credential, but be more like a designation rather than a credential. I did a couple white papers on it. Nobody listened at the time, so that's okay. But the point is that those three things have good purpose,
Uh-huh.
right? The ACC for mm, helping bring coaching into the broader spectrum of the world, which is related to organizations. PCC, those who are wanting to become more fully capable and either do it as a profession or bring it into their work as well. And then the MCC in service of ongoing development,
Mm.
right? And so
So
that's
as,
how they came about.
so as far as I understood, it was at the beginning the belonging as coach, a community, maybe the
Mhm,
visibility, and the credential was about visibility, internal coach, the stance, and
mhm,
also the mastery and keeping.
mhm,
I see also the credential as a guarantee of skills and
mhm,
ethics today, at least.
mhm.
Can,
Totally agree.
can you tell me more about the code of ethics? How did it happen?
The ethics, well, and ethics was something that was evolving right alongside Laura and I when we were doing the committee work for the competencies.
Mm.
Um, it took a while then because we had lawyers on it, so it took a while. But we had our first grouping of it and come up with what, based on experience in relating with other humans in business and life, the first and other fields like therapy or psychology, were checked into at the time, and the ethics emerged, and then there is a standard of every 3 years they're reviewed, anything added or adjusted, jargon issues, etc. And so that's been happening ever since the late 90s when they were first created. So that's how they emerged, right?
So the code of ethics and the core skill emerge at the same time.
Yep.
Okay. And you didn't mention, and I can sense your humility, but you're also a master coach. And
Mm.
you had ICF also on board for you.
Um, yeah, I have been up until year before last. I was still actively involved as on one of the boards because they have several boards now. They've because of resource splitting resources, right? And So I was on the coaching education board for 5 years. That was my last one. And before that, I was president of Global. And I mean, I have my little fingers and toes in everything all the time, probably. I still do, like they called me when we're working on coaching supervision standards that they've just released. They called me to be on to give my reflection on what I thought, and so that they still use me, but I'm not officially involved anymore.
Not officially, but you're still a volunteer. Always.
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
impressed. What drove you to commit so much with ICF? I know that you were connected with the founder at the beginning, but
Well,
offering services.
it isn't so much, and because the ICF was in my context, right? That's where the commitment was. It's a way I could actually contribute pretty easily to the development. And I still connected. I mean, the last time I talked with John, before he passed away, again, a lot of our old timers are not here. We were in Dublin we were speaking together at a conference, right? And so I was really aware of what was happening in his world, and also Thomas Leonard was trained a lot in Warner's work, right? And so I the ICF at the time was the conduit for me to get out there in the world and to help coaching get out there in the world. That said, probably another word that you could add to me is partnering.
Mm,
And I am an advocate of working together. And it's why CTI and Coach U got together and merged their two associations that they created. And then ICF ended up, right? Because of partnering, right? And so I am a huge fan of partnering, especially in relationship to the evolution of humans on this planet and coaching EMCC, AC, IAC, ICF. For me, all of them would serve the profession more if they partnered even more. And they've tried over the years periodically, but you have differences of humans are interesting, differences of opinions on things. And I still think that I'm with the ICF because it was in my context and because they're doing good work in the world. Um, and they laid the foundation for associations to emerge, like the ACC or the EMCC or whatever. And so it, I was, because that's where I was,
mm,
I'm still committed to um, it as a conduit for my big, hairy, audacious goal, which is that every human on the planet has access to these skills.
mm. That's beautiful and inspiring. And
Mm.
at the beginning, you all were volunteers, volunteering.
Oh, yes. Even at Coach U, there wasn't any employees until I took over. When I took over, I said, we got to have a little more than volunteers here, right?
So,
So, yeah, I actually interviewed um, a volunteer myself, right? The ombuds person I was at the time. I interviewed the very first employee at Coach U. So, we still have a lot of wonderful hearts that lots of volunteers in whether it's EMCC, ICF, AC, any of them. A lot of people are putting their heart and soul into supporting coaching evolving.
what I see at ICF is the massive amount of work that has been done with passion by the volunteers.
Yes.
And I'm really impressed. I've been volunteering for years, and you did even more. So I can see the commitment, the passion, and the willingness to contribute to something bigger. That's beautiful.
Thank you, honey. And I love it that you're doing your work on mentoring.
Yeah, and we discussed about that, but if we can come back to your vision of mentoring, and I do agree with yours. So if we can open more, then ICF is about mentor coaching, connected
Mhm.
with the core skill and improving the mastery in the core skills. But we see mentoring as a bigger thing together. So
Mhm.
can you tell me more about that? I would
Well,
love.
I've always thought that, and I've actually fought. and I don't fight a lot. I'm usually very partnering. I've fought not to separate church and state. That's the way I look at it, right? Because supervision and mentoring and entrepreneurial expressions were always 100% when I was running Coach U, that we had what we called coaching supervision, and that include skill mentoring, reflective work like we do in supervision, and included what are you going to do with this? How, the entrepreneurial piece or the how do you bring it into your organization? All three were a regular part of the training and education of everybody that was in the school, right? And it was required. Well, as coaching evolved in different places in Europe, in your lovely area, the EMCC and the ICF in the UK got together and said we got to talk about supervision and separated it out in a separate conversation. And then it became oh gosh, Edna School over in Bath. I mean, it all started to emerge, right, as a separate piece.
Yes.
And and I don't think it's separate. I think there's separate skills, but I don't believe personally that you can do coaching skill development reflection without
Understand.
coaching supervision as well, right? I mean, if I can hear something. I go, I'm wondering, when you asked this question, your energy changed as a coach. What was happening in your head right then? I mean, it's for me, you can't do it. And then also, what are you going to do with this? Are you going to be in integrity with, having a good agreement with your people? Are you, and there's the entrepreneurial piece of it. So that's always been my stance. And now, we have ICF, as you know, has just come out with coaching supervision competencies
The
and
qualification.
coach mentoring competencies, and they're creating mentor coaching specializations on it now.
Yes, there is a qualification coming about mentoring and supervision. You're right. So
Yep,
I see that there are two silos,
yep,
one about this
yep.
skill, one another.
And and I was on both of the committees when they were doing that, and I kept saying, you know what, this is in both. And look here, this is in both. This is unique to this, but this is in both. So and okay, so I say all of that with some humor because really how we are with it is what we do with it. How you are with it is, I mean, when I work with my mentees, I do all three. That's just it. They get what they need for their certification, but they also get for their own personal evolution, right? And so I say that, and this is someone, speaking of me, someone who is not attached to outcome.
Hmm,
And one of my biggest works in the world is not knowing
that's beautiful.
and non-attachment because that's where the suffering is. So I can't even get mad, right? I just thought, okay, all right, here it's going this way. Here's my thoughts, or here's the thoughts. Here's Bertrand's thoughts, my thought, our thoughts, right? And it'll emerge as it is, and then what we do with it is what's important.
So I love it. It's about acknowledging what is and letting go. And
Yep.
usually I'm used to say in my network of peers that one core skill is missing about entrepreneurship. Because usually a coach, he can be eternal, but usually he's more an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So on mentoring, we could mentor on this specific skill.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurship is something per se.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to be separate from the world of coaching, the skill of entrepreneurship?
Well, I don't think it should be. I
Mm.
think that it should be the option to have it. It's even like at university, you would have electives,
Yeah,
right?
I can
It would have to be because if my goal, your goal, our goal is for coaching to be available on a larger scale to humans, whether it's the education of them or someone to coach or have a coach approach like internal in an organization, there has to be support in people knowing how to do that, how
Mm.
to get it out there.
Because I ask you because I run a coaching school with a program that is accredited by ICF and
Mhm.
are respecting the core skills. But through the years, the students, they ask for mentoring on this specific area to raise
Mm-hmm.
awareness, to establish their business, to do sales and everything. And it's quite different. So,
Yeah, well, it's at Coach U for many, many years, and I'm no longer there. It was purchased, and so I moved on. It in the early day, we had specific courses. We had one, two, three, four specific courses on entrepreneurship, on how to get your business together,
what
on contract writing, on all of that, and they were required courses to graduate, so they weren't even electives, right?
we are pioneers.
So yeah.
And what is your vision about supervision today? Because you are also a supervisor.
Um, to watch my opinion here a little bit. Um, I think there's a distinction in between coaching supervision and supervision that comes out of therapy and psychology and other fields. And I think some of the places that are teaching supervision for coaches are too far on the kind of right-hand side of what would be what I would call the supervision of psychologists or psychology, right? Just too far a little bit. I mean, into territory that we shouldn't be in because we're working with people that are creative, resourceful, and capable. And yes, we grow ourselves, and that's why supervision is important because it's about we have to grow ourselves to become masterful, and there's no end to that, right? So, I think some of the schooling is too far, like almost like getting a doctorate almost
Mm,
in that versus what do we mean by supervision in coaching, right? What is that? What are the distinctions and the differences? Just like we did with the distinction between therapy and coaching, right? I think there are some, not all education, and with the competencies that have come out now, they're more,
it will be useful to clarify, I think.
yeah, I think so. And I don't think it's been done. I think there's a school of thought that this is the way it is. And and that's what emerged out of the work that the EMCC and the ICF UK did many, many years ago. I have all the papers too. It emerged out of that. And I think the stuff that has come out of the ICF right now, I think it would be a good, and I'm not going to volunteer for it, but it would be a good kind of a conversation to take what is out there on whatever the standards are everywhere and look at them and distinguish what is relevant and what isn't. Because I mean, there's the long and short of it, everything that helps grow us as humans is valuable in coaching. And so I'm not saying it's wrong, the expanded supervision training. I'm saying there needs to be a distinction so people understand what is required,
Mm.
right? And so that's my 2 cents on that.
And I don't know if I told you that I got the credential also as supervisor on EMCC.
Hmm.
Was it? So I'm really inclusive about both worlds. And what I saw, there was a difference between the ICF and EMCC regarding the credential and the accreditation language. One on ICF is more about metrics measure about the core skill every time. So it's quite, demanding, let's say. And the opposite was more reflective about the experience and I love both process. And
Yeah, I'm with you.
was fitting both ways, and I learned so much. So
Yep. Well, and that's what we need to do is we need to make sure that that's happening, that people who are learning coaching understand that that metrics and those skills are important, especially if you're an entrepreneurial person that is working regularly with people or larger groups. And then the reflective piece, it just well, so I'm glad you're trained in both and that your book is going to actually probably support that conversation, dear.
my dear, just to show you, here it is.
Oh my
It,
goodness.
it will be published.
Oh.
It will be published in September. No, it's in French, but I was thinking about you and Vicky to translate it, at least for you.
Well, you could probably use AI to do that, honey. It'll
Yeah,
help you a little bit, save you some time, and then I'd be happy to review for you.
but a question because we spoke about AI, and sometimes I'm really reluctant regarding art and everything, and sometimes I'm fascinated. What is your thought about AI and coaching and supervision and mentoring? If
Well, okay. So
sorry, but you spoke about that.
no, no, no. It's a good question, but I'm an early adopter. So I've been using ChatGPT since before it even had access to the internet.
Hmm.
And so I'm an early adopter always of new things, clearly. I mean, I've been around for the coaching thing. And so I don't have any fears. I have it's an invitation to us to how we're going to be with it. Now, if you just think back of when we first introduced laptop computers, there were some lawyers that I was working with at the time who said, "Why do I need one of those? I have a secretary."
Wow, wow,
Okay.
wow.
So, and then, and I'm old, so you can tell that it's been a long time ago before we had those, right? And then that's when cell phones came out. The first ones that came out were the kind connected to the car. You remember those? I don't know if you remember. And people
One.
say, "Oh, it'll never work," and then the flip, and then here we are,
Hmm.
right? So this is about a growth and evolution of technology again, right? That we need to learn how to use.
Hmm.
So and here's what happens with the coaching piece. I use it every single day. She's even named herself, right? She made herself a she, my chat GPT. If we confuse information with wisdom
Hmm.
or simulation with presence, we
Hmm.
risk diminishing,
Wow.
the most about humans. And I don't think that we have to worry about that.
Hmm.
Because for me, and here's what I've learned about my use of chat, because I use Claude as well. I use a few other things, right, for period different stuff. Is I've learned that the AI that I use reflects who I am. The
So,
AI that I use gets to know me and reflects who I am back to me. And it's a really interesting dynamic, and so it's a learning space for me. If I were to ask, hey Leora, if you were to say who I am, what would you do? What she would come up with,
hmm.
right? And so that's a simulation, right? That's what comes from regular connection with any kind of technology. So the question is not simply what AI can do. The question is who we become in relationship to AI.
Beautiful. That's a great question.
And
How many hours do I have to write it down?
I know. It's AI can challenge coaches to become more deeply human. That's what I really believe, that more present, more ethical, and more relational. Because it's not about techniques
Hmm.
alone. It's no longer what is enough. It's not, and for me, it isn't about technique. It's about my way of being, the quality of presence that I bring to you, to
Hmm.
anyone that I'm coaching, is that sacred transformational space. That's what it is. And you can't get that with AI.
Hmm.
Right? And again, I have fun with mine. I mean, it's me. I'm curious. I'm fun. It's great. But uh, I, I will tell you that my AI always gives me an invitation to deepen my own understanding.
So it's a
And
reflective
yeah,
partner in a way.
say again.
It's a learning partner or sparing.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So it's so interesting because it's not an excuse, excuse me, to automate the soul of coaching or anything. I mean, this is what people are worried about. Well, they could be an ACC. Well, they probably could, right? If we're talking about doing coaching,
Yeah, but
right?
mastery is
But
not about that. Awareness,
yeah,
events, relation.
exactly. So it's the beings that I have to take a drink. Hold on.
And I love that you mentioned a sacred space. Usually we speak about the safe place, but it's not only that. When you are totally present and aware, it's about wisdom, relation,
Yeah,
sacred.
Well, and I don't know that you know, I probably haven't told you because I did this perhaps after we talked, is that I've written a program, an MCC level training program, 75 hours, that is in its first cohort right now, that is based, it's called a mastery as a way of being a coach approach, a Taoist approach to coaching.
Mm.
And so all of the principles of Taoism are all the principles of underlying way of being in coaching. It's pretty amazing.
When will be your
And
cohort?
say again,
When will be when we did
my next cohort, there's one right now. The next one is coming in the fall. So I'll let you know.
can I share
It's
the link?
just,
Can I share the
it's,
link?
say again.
Can I share the link?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, sure, certainly,
I will.
certainly. I partnered with, and this is where partnership comes in, is that I have the person that I have it on her platform, right, is someone that I trained for and mentored and coached for many, many years. And she came to me and said, I want you to write this. And I said, well, it was right after I left Coach U. And I said, I have one that I have in my mind already. And then she talked me into it. And so then I did. And so now our first cohort started in February this year, and it's 6 months long. And it is for people who have been coaching for a while who want to take it, their own personal mastery to the next level, which is beautiful. So that's what I have.
Let me know about that. I'm
I
curious.
will.
And I've got a question, but maybe this is we never spoke about that, so I don't know about your point of view. What do you think about coach going to psychotherapy? This is one of my battlefield, you know. I feel that coach or people working with coaching or whatever psychotherapy has to do a psychotherapy themselves.
Well, I think a coach should be coached and a coach should have supervision. I do. I still, after all these years, especially I'll get a little, and I go, you know what? I need a supervision call, right? And so whether a coach should have psychology, have it depends. And that's another word that you're going to hear.
That's why I
Even
put.
my newsletter on LinkedIn is called Truth. It depends, right? And so there will be people that come into coaching that probably could use um, some therapy work to continue to grow and evolve themselves.
when I
And then
when I mean doing psychotherapy from themselves to be aware of their blank area, you know.
yes, and that's where well, you understand what the boundaries are for it, but also the reason that I have a coaching supervisor on and off all these years is to help me see myself, right? To help me see what I don't see, because we can't see what we don't see. And that's why I always go to, I have no idea. I don't know. Let me look. Let me figure it out. And I nurture I guess, the grace of not knowing,
Mm.
right? And then that helps me to even know when I need a supervision call, right? Which is basically like therapy for coaches, right? in my way of putting it, potentially, not completely, because as I said earlier, there are people that could use a therapeutic support that are working
Mm.
with as a coach as well.
I think we are really blessed to have the opportunity to get coaching, to receive coaching, mentoring, supervision, psychotherapy, doing workshop, retreat, reflection.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Mm. We are coming to an end. Would you have any book to recommend to the audience? It can be your book. I know that you wrote books.
Yeah, well, I have there's so many books. There's books on coaching. There's a lot of books on coaching out there, right? And there are books, and the Tao Te Ching, which is what I just mentioned. It would be a good one for a mastery. And and yet, I will say to you, and I just finished my last chapter in my book on compassionate objectivity. It'll be out later on in the year. Uh, so that's great. But my learning over the last decade and maybe almost 40 years I've been doing this, right? So has been outside the field of coaching.
Mm.
I mean, to a psychoneuroimmunology conference to go and learn from people there. I went to, and so whatever books appeal to you
Mm,
that draw you into to being curious and to learning. That's why there isn't one I could recommend because it depends.
mm,
Depends on where you're at. What's going to prompt your understanding, and so it could be anything. The whole point is to reach out in that state of not knowing to
mm.
say, I think I know, but you know what? I'm going to go check it out, right? Because as soon as you know, you stop learning.
What does it mean for you not knowing? Because for me, it means a lot about safety, inner work, openness, curiosity. But for you, what it is?
It means that I'm not attached to a perspective or a bias I may have as being the way
Mm,
or the right way to do something. I mean, I said earlier that I get into a little bit of trouble because I'm so curious, right? And I even have my little thing here that's got all its little sides on it, and I go, well, it could be this. Well, all right, but another way to look at it is this over here, right? And I could only do that because I give up my way of attachment to my way being the only way,
mm,
and that's what's going to create peace on this planet, honey. What needs to happen is people need to agree to disagree and have different perspectives and be okay. And they can't do that if they're in the knowing.
mm,
This is the way it is. It doesn't mean that we give up our standards or give up our biases, but we've got to allow the space for the curious inquiry and reach to another human's perspective. And that's for me, not knowing is I don't know what you think like. I know a little bit about you, Bertrand, right? I like you a lot. And I'm still curious. I'm still like, I don't know. And I might think I know. Even my husband, we've been together 38 years now. I'll find out. So the other day he told me something and I'm like, you never told me that. I had no idea. Right. And if I were not curious, I wouldn't have asked the question that got that.
mm.
Right. So,
So curiosity is also about the connection to others and the connection
mm,
to the world. That's good.
yeah.
And what do you do when you're not coaching?
Well, I write, which I'm doing here. I stopped doing that for myself for many, many years, writing for others. So now I'm writing for myself and for what I think needs to get out. But I have lovely doggies, beagles. We rescue elderly beagles, and I've got two now. I had three, one just passed, and I get out walking with my little beagle doggies, and I enjoy my family, I have 9 grandchildren and 3 girls and a nephew that's really more like a son. And they don't live close, but I just enjoy the nuances of them enjoying their life. And actually, one of my grandsons just got married, so they're pretty old now.
Mm.
Telling my age is getting older. And so that's it. I enjoy exploring. And that's where my not knowing and my curiosity is. So I explore. We live in a beautiful part of the U.S. in the Pacific Northwest,
Okay.
and so I just enjoy it, and I take what comes and just move it along, whatever happens.
And I wanted to ask you because you offered me so much time and information. What was your core intention? Maybe I've got an answer today about your curiosity.
Well, the reason I said yes, first of all, is I really love you. I just think our interview that you had, the respect,
Mm,
your heart, even these kind of questions that you asked me, right? What's your mood here, Pam? What all of that? I really like you a lot. And I'll have to, okay, nobody's going to believe this when I say this, but I am an extroverted introvert. I said no to 5 other podcasts this last year because it's not really what I want to do. I like to be that's why I'm kind of in the side seats, right, all the time, right? And so you'd never know that because I was an actress, but that's what I learned. I learned how to do this, right? And be okay with that. And so I said yes because I really care for you and I care for the work that you're doing.
Mm.
Is if there's any way that I can support you in getting your work out, once you get it in English, it'll be easier for me.
Yeah,
So
I know. I will,
to actually share to share. But your work is so important. It is a piece of, and I know we have a like perspectives on a lot of things. So your work supports my vision.
mm.
So that's why I'm here.
I feel so grateful for your time and your words. And for me, it was a way to honor the work that you've done, the work that the pioneers are done. And also, I will connect with Vicky to say thank you because you did so much work for the legacy. And so precious.
Well, it's just
I feel
it's
humbled, and honored for this time.
well, honey, and moi aussi, right? Me too. And thank you. And blessings and the best to you as you continue in your work, my dear.
And if you have one sentence of truth, I don't know if it's truth, maybe wisdom to share with the audience, what would it be to end the podcast?
Practice
Hmm.
so that you as a coach can mature without losing your soul.
Thank you so much, Pam. That's really precious to me.
You're welcome. Hugs.
Merci.